First off, I don't know what I was talking about when I said I preferred Ant-Man vs. Adam to Harley vs. Jinx, and secondly, Dragonborn vs. Chosen Undead just dropped. Or Dark Souls vs. Skyrim. Or, wait, never mind, it's Skyrim vs. Dark Souls now, despite Dark Souls being first on the thumbnail, and... You know, I'm just gonna call it Dragonborn vs. Chosen Undead, how about that? Anyways, this was Liam's next big dream matchup after Dio vs. Alucard, and by God did they make it special, including having an absolute banger track by Brandon Yates that actually includes a ton of people from the community for a fan choir, and man, that is just so cool. I didn't have the time to audition for it myself, but next time he does it, I really want to try out. Because what we have here is truly spectacular. A huge shout out to everyone who gave such a wonderful performance. And heck, there's probably more than are mentioned in the credits, since there were options to stay anonymous. This was such a cool idea that allows fans to get more involved in the show. And more opportunities like that have been happening lately, like the matchup poll last year, for example. I love how Death Battle is embracing their community more. It helps them stand out from many other shows and allows us to be more involved. Yeah, I just love this show so much. And, of course, the ad for Brandon Yates was really based. He continues to be the GOAT. Also, just the track itself is really good even without all the little extra bonuses. The theme gives a climatic medieval/Nordic battle feeling, and the lyrics grant us such an ominous sense of desperation from both sides to take their victory. It's really well made, and is what I'm sure will be one of my favorite tracks from this season. Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, let's see how the episode itself is. The analyses I thought were pretty good. Not perfect by any means, but for what they are, they get what they need to done. I also love how most of it is just gameplay footage. It's nice after we've had such a drought of video game characters and franchises on the show. Chosen Undead's cutaway animation looks weirdly choppy for some reason, and sometimes they kind of just jump to talking about something with little to no transition at all. But looking at the whole picture, these are a really great set of analyses. There's plenty of funny and humorous moments like them talking about the roll dodge and calculating how much cheese the Dovahkiin can carry. Sure, not every joke is a winner, but still, it's great that the rundowns we have for these two series that are probably never going to appear again, at least not for a while, are really stellar. Only character I can see them using anytime soon is Alduin, and even then I don't know who they would pit him against since most of his matches are either really boring or massive stomps in his favor. I mean, I like Alduin versus Calamity Ganon, but that is very much the latter, so I guess there isn't many options to work off of. I really like them talking about the lore in the second half of Chosen Undead's analysis, the meaning, the purpose of the game's theme. You can tell that Liam went really hard on this section specifically, because he is a really huge Souls fan. With the first game, the one Chosen Undead is from, being his favorite game of all time. It's nice to see so much passion for something. That's another thing I love about this show. It's something I want to see more of. Oh, and by the way, Death Battle, if you ever use Spider-Man specifically from the Insomniac games, give me a call. Now, Potato King, who's also a massive Dark Souls fan, loved the analysis portion for Chosen Undead, but he did notice a few inconsistencies, such as some iffy scaling and an argument in the conclusion, which I will get to later. All in all, however, he still really enjoyed it. Okay, now let's get to this animation. It begins with Darkstalker. It begins with Darkstalker. What? It begins with Darkstalker. Oh, why can't I say that right? It begins with Darkstalker Koth and Kingseeker Frompt, both voiced by Tom Chalk, telling their respective combatants to do what they want them to do. I don't know. This was another thing Liam wanted to add to make the episode feel more grand. I mean, yeah, just randomly meeting and fighting works, but this is so much cooler. I wish we got stuff like this more often. We have a really cool shot of the Dragonborn's reflection on the surface of the Chosen Undead's helmet, which is it's just cool, okay? I'm gonna be saying that a lot, just to warn y'all. This is also a reference to something in Dark Souls I heard, so that's neat too. Though I guess when you look at the way the two are facing in the next shot, realistically, Dragonborn shouldn't actually have been reflecting off of the beginner fight, and Not gonna lie, get a kind of underwhelming Fusroda. It doesn't exactly do much, Chosen Undead just sort of blocks it with his shield. There are a couple other instances where he uses the shout as well as some other iterations of it, and while they have a good amount of impact, I don't know, they all just lack the sheer power behind it, you know? I mean, Smosh got it right. I'm pretty unbothered by the criticism personally, I think they're fine as they are, but I just feel like there could have been a bit more to it, you know? On the positive side of things, the animation is visually stunning. The lighting with everything so musty and dark, the only true source of brightness radiating from the fire in the middle of the arena, and many visual effects like the flames, dust, and lightning make for some really outstanding shots. Especially this one where the two are lying down when the arena around them is destroyed. It perfectly sets the mood for the upcoming final clash. We get our expected little sword fight, which yes, is a little janky and not as quick-paced as I prefer it to be, but I still really love the choreography and the camera angles that make it so dynamic, so I can't help but love it. Then we get the rolling gag, which is of course hilarious. I thought it went on for a bit long in the sneak peek, but now, yeah, I think it's a reasonable length. It's a common tactic among Souls fans to just keep rolling, so it makes sense that they'd stretch it out as long as they could. Also, at least it isn't as noticeable as Cloud's falling gag. Smo's hammer appears out of literally nowhere, and we have a pretty slow tracking shot that is followed by a very impactful hit that breaks Dovahkiin's shield and sends him flying. After that, we get to this. Of course, this was the best and funniest possible way they could have gone with it. I can't tell you how thankful I am that the cutaway gags didn't involve Boomstick doing the Fusroda or shooting Wiz or himself in the knee with an arrow and saying something along the lines of, "Hey Wiz, I used to be a smart guy like you, then I tried my first beer," or something like that. Not bringing a ton of attention to it, quick and simple, gets the chuckles across and moves on. Perfect. Though they also bring attention to the joke they made in the analyses about the Chosen Undead seemingly getting off to the pain. I'm not sure if that's just a Dark Souls thing. We just have some shenanigans going on after this, like the stuff with the giant bow and arrow and the Chosen Undead coming back after his soul is taken away in the magic gemstone thingy. I know they said that Chosen Undead can survive without his soul, but I'm not sure if they meant he can come back immediately after it's taken, or if he can straight up survive without one, so I'm just not gonna say anything. It doesn't really matter either, as immediately after we get this really cool shot, like I said, gonna say it a lot, of Chosen Undead blocking the flame and powering one of his attacks through. Then we see his dorky little run, followed by an amazing combo. Yes, it's still kinda janky, but Mr. Dark Souls just starts walloping on Mr. Skyrim here. Every hit has so much impact and sheer force behind it, it's amazing. The Dovahkiin summons a dragon, oh wait, sorry, I meant Thomas the Tank Engine to get another kill on Chosen Undead, who seems to, yet again, enjoy it. He comes back and shoots him with another arrow that leads into this really awesome shot of the Dovahkiin absorbing part of the lightning he summoned into his hand, which then follows into yet another awesome shot of the Chosen Undead catching two bolts and chucking them at Dragonborn, destroying the Colosseum around them. Man, it's just so cool, I love it! Sure, the Moonlight Greatsword appears out of, again, literally nowhere, but it doesn't really matter, since this is when the fight starts reaching its peak. We get this raw shot of the Chosen Undead holding the blade to his face, which I thought was a reference to that one render everyone likes to use, but it's apparently a nod to Bloodborne, so I guess not. But the build-up with the two running towards each other is superb, and the fighting itself is amazingly choreographed. Chosen Undead packs a lot more force behind his swings, but is slower, while Dragonborn doesn't really have as much power, but is able to keep Chosen Undead on his feet. Dragonborn takes a really long time to say his Fusroda, while Chosen Undead uses the Vow of Silence to stop him. When he realizes he can't speak is honestly really funny due to how fast he whiplashes in his expression. Dragonborn gains the advantage by using an opportunity to stab Chosen Undead through the chest, but before he can bring it back, Chosen Undead grips it and forces himself all the way towards Dragonborn so that he can put him in a chokehold and keep him from shouting. All before saying, "Prepare to die," in such a calm and sickly voice. This whole sequence is just raw as hell. I love it. Also, Chosen Undead is voiced by Liam Swan here. I don't know how this man can voice act so well, because in each of his roles he has been given, it is impossible for me to connect it to his actual voice. That is ridiculously impressive, let alone for someone who isn't a dedicated voice actor. We get another exceptional shot right here before we get to the kill where Chosen Undead decides to summon the first flame itself to the battlefield to finish off Dragonborn for good, who doesn't seem very bothered by it at all and just dissipates it with a regular Fus Roda. I like how it echoes to give it just that little extra oomph, but even then, it still doesn't have that sheer force behind it. It doesn't feel like he's being hurt by the flame at all. It's treated more as a minor inconvenience. All we needed was a grunt or two to give us that impression. Oh, and then there's the end where the darkness takes over the world since the Dragonborn made the first flame die out. And yeah, that's the fight. I have a couple of major issues which I've already laid out, but all in all, it was still really well done. We got to see so many abilities, the visuals were stunning as per usual, and yeah, overall, really solid. The post-analysis is also good, but some fans, more specifically Potato King, took issue with how they handled how a Dragonborn would kill Chosen Undead. Basically, the Chosen Undead is meant to symbolize an undying will and someone who never gives up. And since going hollow or giving up is really the only way he can die, then that's how they said Dragonborn would end up winning, since Chosen Undead can never really truly defeat him given the massive gap in power. Personally, I feel like they handled it the best they could, but I can see why it might rub some the wrong way. I don't really mind. I mean, going hollow is also supposed to represent the player of the game giving up, that or rage quitting, and with what Boomstick said after the fight, I think that is what they were going for. I just like to imagine Boomstick was actually playing as Chosen Undead, and then rage quit after he only died like 3 times. Sounds like something he would do. Also, I love the "you died" reference, that was great. This episode was far from perfect, but it was still damn good. It didn't quite reach the levels of Sauron vs. the Lich King or Dio vs. Alucard, 2 episodes it's compared to a lot. But those are some pretty high bars to fill. I'd be surprised if the second episode of the season reached the same height as those 2 episodes. For what it is, it's a really fun time, and it actually did the impossible and got me really intrigued in both games. I had never been interested in either series, but after watching this episode, I really want to check them out. I'll probably give Elden Ring another try, because when I first tried it, I was an edgy teen who wanted to be different by saying, oh well, personally I didn't care for it. So yeah, I played it for an hour and haven't played it since. I'm pretty sure it deserves a second try. I feel like we need to give Liam creative control more often, if not all the time. This man is an actual gold factory. When this man has something he's passionate about, you already know he's gonna make something good out of it. I'm a Light vs. Walter fan, and before you ask, yes, I have watched Breaking Bad and loved it. I mean, technically I still have like 3 episodes left as I'm writing this, but come on, I'm basically there at this point. I do genuinely think that it's a really good show, and that Light vs. Walter has some real potential. I'm really sad that most fans of the matchup are only for it because haha Breaking Bad memes, because I truly believe it to be really great. But anyways, even though I love that matchup, I would be all for them doing Light vs. Columbo instead if Liam directed it, as he really wants to do that matchup, and given his track record with doing his dream matches, I'd imagine it would be easy S-tier material. So yeah, I'd give this episode as of now a 9 out of 10, more specifically an 8.5. There are a few things holding it back, but most of it is really amazing. Also, I'm dropping Ant-Man vs. Adam down to a 7. Next, we have one of the first times where I have never even heard of a character prior to the episode announcement. Killua vs. Misaka. These two are Potato King's favorite characters from their respective series, and he's a huge fan of both series as a whole, so there you go, he just keeps on his winning streak. This man has to be stopped. Though, then again, he is a Cuphead vs. Bindi fan, so maybe let's just let him keep going. Anyways, I wasn't necessarily hyped for this episode when it was announced. I kinda had to warm up to it. Electricity is pretty cool, so it's nice that we're going to get another one of those episodes. And as I'm writing this, both previews have been released, and I'm just going to say it's weirdly nostalgic for some reason. It gives off such late season 6 vibes, and I don't know why, but I really love it for that. So far, the episode seems like it's going to be great. I'm excited for it. Misaka may have the most basic anime design ever, but I'm sure she's a cool character. Since I don't know next to nothing about both these characters, I'm ready to learn about them, see what they're all about. I'm pretty interested in this one. And there you have it. Sorry this took a while. I had exams last week and a bunch of other miscellaneous things to attend to, so I decided on not working on this review until this week, so that I didn't have to worry about it on top of everything else. Also, I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom right now, so there's another explanation. Manage your time, people. Trust me. So yeah, busy week, and then I was slacking for a bit. There ain't much to it. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say, so I'll be seeing you next time. Also, fair warning to you all, but Spider-Man 2 comes out on October 20th, and you will not be hearing from me for about at least a week once that date arrives.